One of the most complicated and important parts of getting into adventure motorcycling is figuring out how to carry gear on your bike. Whether you're going out for a day trip, a single overnight, or a week-long adventure, you need to find a way to carry your gear without interfering with your ability to have fun riding your motorcycle, which is sort of the whole point of riding a motorcycle. I've spent quite a few nights camping off my motorcycle, and I spent several years working for one of the world's largest motorcycle luggage companies. And I thought it might be helpful to make a video laying out the basics of soft motorcycle luggage and answering some of the most common questions and points of confusion. Couple caveats before we jump in. One, full disclosure, I spent several years working for Giant Loop, so you're going to see a lot of B-roll footage of Giant Loop luggage as examples in this video because I have a ton of B-roll footage of Giant Loop luggage from the time that I worked there. By adventure riding, I mean going on adventures on your motorcycle, not strictly riding ADV bikes. A lot of what I say will apply to dual sports and other bikes. Hard luggage is a thing. I don't personally recommend it for off-pavement adventure riding because it's expensive and dangerous and it's not really where my expertise is, so I won't be talking about it much. I made a hard versus soft luggage video for Giant Loop back in the day, so if you want more info on that, check it out, I'll link it for you. And this video is a 10,000-foot overview of soft luggage options, not a deep dive into the nuances of every single option. I'm going to speak in general terms here, but there will of course be exceptions and unique cases that I will not cover. Okay, enough preamble, let's dive in. On the most basic level, there are three types of soft luggage for a motorcycle. There is a duffel bag or a dry bag. This is the cheapest and simplest, but pretty much never the best option. There is rackless luggage. It's called that because you don't need racks. What? I know. You can just strap it to your bike. Probably the most secure option that interferes with your riding the least, but space can be limited and installation and removal take longer and are more complicated than the other options. And the third and probably most popular option that you see is soft panniers. They generally have the most space, but they're also the most expensive option because you have to buy pannier racks and add them to your bike to use them. So let's talk a little bit more about each option. Option one, duffel bag or dry bag. It does not get any simpler than a duffel bag or a dry bag. You just take all your crap, you stuff it in a big bag, and you strap that bag to your bike. Most people start here. I personally started with a $20 Walmart rafting dry bag. Dry bags are most common here because your gear is protected from the elements, but if you're on a budget or just want to try out camping before committing to spending a ton of cash, you can use a regular old duffel bag so long, and this is important, as it is properly and securely attached to your bike. You do not want your sleeping bag outside of a bag, and you don't want that bag coming loose and getting into your rear wheel. It can and will and has caused motorcycle career-ending accidents. Just, you gotta make sure your stuff is securely attached to your bike. Please do that. Options range from the very basic, just a dry bag, just a big bag with a couple handles, to more complicated options with integrated straps and mounting solutions. The pros of the duffel bag approach, there are many. It's the cheapest option. It's versatile. It can go from bike to bike, and it's useful in other camping applications. I use my big dry bags all the time when I'm camping out of my truck or my 4Runner. I just throw my gear in there. If I'm in the truck, I can even throw it in the back because the bag's waterproof. These duffel bags have a ton of space. Dry bag versions are waterproof by themselves. You can stuff a bunch of soft gear in there and use it as a pillow. Not my best and most favorite pillow, but it's better than nothing. Some of these dry bags convert into backpacks for off-the-bike adventures. The Giant Loop Tillamook bag does that. I think some of the Moscow bags do that. A big duffel bag on the back of your bike can be a good backrest for the rider, for you, or for a passenger. It's easy to take the duffel bag or the dry bag off of your bike and into camp or a hotel room, and it's really easy to load and see what's in the bag because it's just one big cavernous space. But the duffel bag approach is not without its cons. The cons to using a duffel bag for soft luggage are it's the most difficult to secure to the bike. Even the ones with mounting solutions are just not going to be as secure as something that wraps around your motorcycle or is hard mounted to a dedicated rack. The weight when you have all of your gear in a bag up on the top of your bike is high up and on the rear, which is the last place that you want it. And with the big duffel bag, everything is in one bag, so organization is harder. It's hard to find specific stuff without dumping everything out. And when you have a big bag on the back of your bike, it's harder to swing your leg over, harder to get off quickly in a unscheduled dismount, and having a big bag just strapped to the back of your bike kind of looks dumb. It's the least cool looking of the options, in my humble opinion. So a few examples of the duffel bag approach. the Giant Loop Tillamook. Moscow Moto has the Alpine Duffel, and they also have their bigger, I think they're backcountry duffels. They're a little bit more expensive. And Tusk has a ton of dry duffel bags of various sizes that can just be strapped to the back of the bike. I'm gonna link all this stuff for you in the description if you wanna check out the various options. Option 2 for soft luggage is rackless luggage. Like the name suggests, these bags strap directly to your bike with no racks required. These are either a horseshoe-shaped single bag, like the Giant Loop Coyote, or multiple bags that are attached to a frame or a harness, one on each side and one on the back in the middle. So the pros of rackless luggage: one, it's the best for hard riding. The weight is positioned as low and forward as possible and sits where the bike is already designed to carry a passenger. So unlike the other options, the weight of your gear is sitting in a place where your motorcycle is designed to have weight. Rackless luggage is the most sleek and narrow option for riding tight places. It straps the most securely. It is the least likely to move or come off, unlike panniers that sometimes just bounce off randomly on the trail. Your soft rackless luggage can be used as a grab point for picking up the bike because it's strapped that securely. Some of the rackless luggage even comes with grab handles on the outside for this purpose. The limited space and weird shape of the rackless luggage can be a pro in that it forces you to be deliberate about what you bring. You're less likely to just fill up the space with extra just-in-case crap when you just can't bring as much or it's just not as easy to pack. And a rackless luggage setup can be used on multiple bikes. No racks required. You can move it from bike to bike to bike. You can buy one setup and use it on as many bikes as you have, depending on whether or not you can figure out how to mount it to multiple bikes. The cons of rackless soft luggage: you generally need a heat shield or something to protect your soft luggage from the exhaust because it will wrap over and around the exhaust. That is only on bikes with high exhaust. If you have a mid or a low exhaust, it's less of a problem, but many adventure bikes and almost all dual sports have a high exhaust, so you're gonna have to put something between your bag and the exhaust to prevent it from melting. It's easy to screw that up and melt your expensive bag and camping gear. Ask me how I know. Some bikes will still require soft luggage racks to deal with this. They're cheaper than pannier racks, but it's still an additional cost. But some people will run a soft luggage rack just to know that the luggage is separated enough from the bike and the exhaust and everything. Rackless soft luggage is not made for specific bikes, so you have to figure out how to mount it to each and every different bike that you have. Every bike is different. It's hard to get exact mounting advice unless you've seen someone mount that exact piece of gear to that exact bike in the past. You can't carry a passenger, or at least not as easily. You can't really carry a passenger with rackless luggage. It's more expensive than a duffel bag. Some of the rackless luggage is not waterproof by itself. You need to use inner liner dry bags. Packing the rackless luggage can be challenging due to the unique shape of the bag, and or you have multiple separate bags, which means putting bigger items is more complicated because you just don't have a single bag big enough to put a bigger item into. Rackless luggage is the least convenient to install and remove. There's not really quick release options. It's not always easy to take your gear off of the bike. If you have the inner liner dry bags, you can pull those out and take them into the hotel room or into your tent, but the harness or the frame of your soft luggage remains on the bike, or in some cases like the Giant Loop Coyote, the entire thing remains on the bike. And rackless luggage generally has a smaller capacity than other options. For instance, the Giant Loop Coyote rackless horseshoe-shaped bag is 40 liters, while the Tillamook, the single duffel bag, is 50 liters by itself. And loading and seeing what's in your bags with rackless can be kind of a pain because sometimes stuff is down and around the corner, or you just have smaller bag size overall. Some examples of soft rackless luggage: the Giant Loop Coyote that I mentioned, I've used that a ton. Giant Loop Great Basin is their bigger option. Moscow has the Rackless 40 and the 80, and they have approximately that many liters respectively. Tusk makes the Excursion and the Highland setup, and each one of those takes kind of a different approach, but they're all the same basic idea of rackless luggage that wraps around the back of the bike. And the third and final option for soft luggage for your motorcycle is soft panniers. And soft panniers are two separate bags that mount to the sides on the rear of the bike, and in most cases you need pannier racks. I'm talking 97% of the time you need a pannier rack. Even with the other 3%, you need some kind of rack generally. So the pros of panniers: they are the biggest and you can carry the most stuff. Some panniers are 50 liters a side. That's a lot of stuff. They're the easiest to put on and take off the bike. If you have the quick release mounts, which are an additional expense, but it is a thing. Without quick release mounts, they're about as quick and easy as rackless. Actually, I would say they're harder than rackless because rackless only has 3 points of contact to the bike, and you will have at least 4 per pannier if you're not using quick release pannier bags with your pannier rack. They're easy to load. It's just one giant box shape. They'll fit lots of stuff and lots of big stuff. My Giant Loop Around the World panniers fit my chair and my tent inside both vertically and horizontally. That is a big advantage. And with soft panniers, you can carry a passenger in a way that you can't with a rackless setup, and it's a lot harder with a duffel bag on the back. However, there are cons to the soft pannier setup. Number one, most expensive by far, because the bags cost more on their own, and you have to buy a rack and install it in order to use the bags on your motorcycle. Those racks stay on the bike, which means your bike is heavier all the time, even when you're riding without bags. Soft panniers work best on the bigger bikes. You don't see them as often on dual sports. Some people do it, but it's generally more of a bigger bike thing. These panniers make your bike much wider, so it's more difficult to navigate tight trails. You can snag or hit obstacles on the side of the trail. Heard plenty of stories of this, had it happen to me myself, which can throw you off your line at best and throw you on the ground at worst. Panniers can be used on multiple bikes, but you need racks on each of the bikes. And if the racks aren't the same size, then you're gonna need to adjust your quick release or buy separate quick release setups for each. The weight of soft panniers is lower, which is good, lower than a duffel bag, but it's on the outside very far from the bike, adding to instability and tippiness. The bags can come off when riding hard, even with a secure quick release setup. I've seen it happen. And the big bags are very tempting to overfill with crap because they're just so big. I'm guilty of that. There's plenty of room to throw in just one more thing just in case. And the next thing you know, you have 80 pounds of gear on your bike. And the last con of soft panniers is they're not always waterproof by themselves. Many are, but some of them need inner liner dry bags. That makes it easier to take your stuff out of them, but just one more layer, one more expense, one more complication. Some examples of soft panniers: the Tusk Olympus is a less expensive option that I've used. Giant Loop makes the Moto Treks, that's their 25-liter panniers, and the Round the Worlds, that is 48 or 50 liters a side. Moscow Moto has the Alpine, the 30-liter, which is 30 liters a side, whoa. And their backcountry setup, which is a little bit more expensive. There are also smaller options of soft luggage for day tripping. So like the Moscow Reckless 20, the Tusk Traverse, and the Giant Loop Mojave. Didn't include these because they're technically rackless luggage, but they're so small you wouldn't use them for camping. But if you are going out riding for the day, I will run one of these with my toolkit in one side and my tire changing kit in the other, just to have it, make sure it's with me. Another option worth mentioning is the Lone Rider Moto Bag, and it's interesting because it's a hybrid option. It has most of the safety advantages of soft luggage. These are big panniers, big soft panniers, but they have rigid sides, so loading is easier because the bag stays open, and the bags are lockable even though it's a soft bag. So I'll put a link to that in the description too if you want to check it out. Kind of a unique hybrid between soft and hard panniers for your motorcycle. The last thing I want to talk about is combo options. So obviously you don't have to run just one of these. You can do multiple things depending on what you're trying to do. A lot of people will run soft panniers with a duffel bag on top. I've done that a ton. Or you run a rackless setup like the Coyote of the Great Basin with a bigger duffel bag strapped to the back, or the Moscow and Tusk options allow you to just swap out the center bag on the back to get a bigger bag. So it'll give you more versatility that way. With the rackless stuff, you've got some flexibility. You can always add additional bags, get creative that way. So at the end of the day, there are as many different types of soft luggage for motorcycles as there are different types of riders and adventurers. Hopefully this very quick and dirty 10,000 foot overview helps you at least sift through the noise and maybe narrows down your first choice of a bit. You want to decide what category of soft luggage to look at, and then you can dive into all the options in that category. If you're looking for more in-depth comparison of specific luggage, I did do a very in-depth comparison of the 40-liter options, the rackless options from Tusk, Giant Loop, and Moscow Moto. I'll link that for you, and probably more of those to come, so subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet if you want to hear more about soft luggage stuff. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button. That makes it more visible and ensures that you'll see future luggage videos in your feed. So what do you think? Do you want more luggage info? I've got a ton, obviously, of knowledge from working in the industry, and there's not a lot of like comparison stuff out there I've noticed, but it's also kind of a dry and boring topic. So let me know in the comments if this is useful and if you'd like to see more. And finally, what luggage setup do you use and why? Let us know in the comments. I love it when we share our knowledge and everybody can learn from everybody else and get their questions answered. So please jump in down there and tell us what your setup looks like. There will be affiliate links to all of the luggage options I mentioned in this video in the description. Clicking those specific links are my generic links to Amazon, Moscow Moto, Moto Camp Nerd, Butler Maps, Rocky Mountain ATV, Revzilla, and the others. Supports the channel without costing you a dime. Thank you to those who continue to do so. I appreciate you. You keep this channel going, and all it costs is 2 seconds to click on a link before you buy stuff you were going to buy anyway. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and please do not forget to be excellent to each other. Oh, thank you.
Excellent!